So I'm gonna just kind of try and wing this one and not script it, which is kind of the point of what I'm doing here. So what this video, hopefully it's going to be really short, is about is why I haven't uploaded for a long time. I think the last time I uploaded was maybe 2 years ago, and this is essentially why that's the case. Um, so, I started this channel a good while ago, and I haven't got that many videos on it. I've got a mixture of videos on it, and my intention was to have one main series that where each video is about 20 minutes long, and it tackled one subject at a time and really hit it and left no stone unturned. Um, really got to the root of it, and I wanted to be kind of systematic about it as well and build things up. So that was where the first one was: what is the gospel? What is it about? Because that's the most important thing to know as a Christian. And then there was kind of like other pieces of evidence that would kind of build on top of each other. So um, episode 3 could use the background knowledge from episode 2, but I was also trying to design it to stand alone to some extent, so you didn't have to watch the whole series. So it was a little bit of a balance of, they continued, but you didn't need to watch them in order, but it helped if you did. And I think I did about 6 of those. And the thing with those is because they're so, um, the intention was that they were in depth, is that they took a lot of research. And the other side of it was that I wanted my videos to be kind of engaging, fun to watch with graphics and sounds and um, so on. I didn't just want to be sitting in front of a camera like I am right now and chatting away or reading a script or something. I wanted it to have lots of visuals and things to help kind of paint the picture and also be a bit jazzy. I'm a 90s kid, so everything's got to have attitude, a little bit of that kind of thing where it's got to be fun and bouncy. And um, so that was the intention. So the thing with those is the research, the writing, the filming, the editing all took so much time. So that's where the snapologetics idea came along. I was like, okay, I want to keep doing the in-depth ones, but I also want to just do some videos that are just a minute or two long and also hit one question. Obviously 1 or 2 minutes isn't going to go into depth, but then there have to be the kind of questions you can answer in 1 or 2 minutes, or at least give an overview that you can bounce off to then do some deeper um, discussion, reading, study, and so on. But just as a kind of like sound bite, like, okay, how do I answer this question? Boom, I've got the main bullet point. That's what they were, and they were a bit easier to churn out because to start with, I did just sit in front of a camera, but then I guess my showmanship type of thing came out again. Was I didn't like the ones where I was just sitting in front of a camera, and then I didn't get the lighting right on a lot of them, and I didn't kind of set the stage, and it was just kind of sitting in my dingy office with messy desk, and I thought this looks terrible, um, so I didn't like that anymore. Um, and then I kind of dabbled in a few other things. I started I may have done two. I might have only done one actually, where looking at a debate and reacting to the debate. And the reason I only did 1 or 2 of those is because obviously these debates that could be up to 3 or 4 hours long. I think the first one I did was only an hour long, so, but then still the video of the reaction took a 1 hour video and became a 3 hour video because I'm sort of showing the debate and then talking about my thoughts afterwards, so it kind of doubles or triples the length. So then I was like, okay, maybe I can trim down the actual debate to shorten it because this is insane. And then obviously, if I was going to look at a 3 hour video, then that 3 hour video is going to become 8 hours or something. So that became kind of ridiculous. Um, the I had the responder videos, which I did a couple of as well, which they were good because they were more responding to similar YouTube videos. So the YouTube video I was responding to could be 20 minutes long itself, so then mine could be 45 minutes, an hour, so that's more reasonable. And so I did a few of those, and it was really nice to have John McRae on for one of those, kind of responding to general atheist arguments rather than something specific. But that was really good. I liked that one. I had a sort of one of my favourite ones that I really wanted to continue with was the questions of faith, where I would actually talk to somebody else who the intention was that they would have a difference of opinion to me on something, and I didn't want it to be a debate. I wanted it to be me trying to see where they were. So I purposely didn't push back too hard. I gave them tons of objections, but that was the point. I wanted to see what they would say to the objections, and in most cases I'd given them the questions ahead of time so that they could think about it. I think the only one I didn't do was with Mark Lambert, who was talking about the young Earth. I didn't give him the questions ahead of time, and I kind of, in hindsight, I think I should have, because I didn't want to be trying to catch them out. I just wanted to see what they would say to these things that they probably heard before, and I think luckily Mark had heard a lot of these things before, so it wasn't taking him by surprise, and that was all good. I hadn't dabbled in debates myself at this stage. I'd done a lot of online text, sort of like Facebook comments and that kind of thing, discussions over that sort of type of thing, but I hadn't done an actual one-to-one, which I was interested in doing. And I did approach Modern Day Debate, and they said, yeah, if I want to do a topic, just let me know what the topic is, and if there's any particular opponent you'd like to be matched up with, and we could try and set that up. And then that was me. I never got back to them because I think I had an idea or two for topics, but I didn't see any particular opponents to talk to. So anyway, the short version is I kind of took on all these like 5 or 6 different series all by myself, and a lot of them took a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of time editing, because of my style of I want it to be exciting and fun to watch. That the editing would take a long time, rather than, you know, if you do a live stream, you turn the camera on and at the end of it you turn it off, and maybe you can cut the beginning and end where you were just kind of checking your sound or something, and that takes a couple of minutes. My editing was more, jazzy and so on, exciting. So this is very time consuming, and what I realized was other people were doing the things I were doing, but they're probably more studied than I am, more well read than I am, way ahead, and they're doing it better. So I felt like, well, you know, there's no point in me repeating the same things when, so like Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy is covering a lot of the topics I wanted to cover, and he's really good. He's got his followings and so on. Mike Winger, who was also on my channel, he blew up shortly after being on my channel, so I was very lucky to get him when I did. He's covering like a lot of theology type thing, and he's so like knowledgeable on that. Wise Disciples doing the debate review thing, better than I ever could. He's a debate teacher, so you know that's his ballpark. David Wood for Islam. I don't think I ever actually touched Islam. I never got around to making the Islam videos I wanted to, but David Wood's the guy for that. So there's all these guys that are doing it, and they've got their followings, and they've got their niches, and they're just like there's no point me adding to it unless I've got something specifically to add that I feel like no one else is saying, or I can add a certain angle on it that I think is being missed. And sometimes I do feel that, and I think, oh, I could make this this video, and I don't get around to it because of the time thing. I've got other things going on. So that combination of it being very labor intensive to make these things, plus other people are doing it anyway, kind of doubled up to like, well, there's not much point me carrying on, even though I would like to. I did also write this book. I originally wrote this in 2014, It got a little bit of notice at the time in the community. Um, so the idea of this was that it would be a step-by-step guide of how to go from being an atheist to a Christian, like the steps of belief. You need to take the hurdles of. So the first section looks at why atheism, just looking at atheism on its own as a belief system, why it doesn't work, what the problems are with it, without taking any alternatives into account. It's just looking at the worldview itself, why it doesn't work, why it doesn't make sense. Fact, it doesn't have any evidence really. That sort of thing, and then you go from there. Okay, now atheism doesn't make sense. I guess I'm an agnostic. So what do I go from here? It's like, well, what evidence is actually out there? Um, there's a lot of evidence for theism. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. By the end of this chapter, now you should be a theist. You should believe God exists. So now you believe God exists. Like let's just try and get more specific. So what about the Christian a description of God? Does that one make sense? So we look at the arguments for Christianity specifically. So by the end of the book, you're a Christian. That's the intention. So this, I wrote this in 2014, and it's available on Amazon. I could put it at a nice, reasonable price. And I just recently went over it and kind of revised some of it because there was a few things I think I could explain slightly better. Some pieces of evidence that I hadn't included that I don't know why, that I'm either I didn't know about these pieces of evidence at the time when I wrote it, or I felt like there wasn't the space, or I'd done enough. I don't know why, but I was looking at it again and thinking, why isn't this here? So it's in there now, and there was maybe 1% of stuff out of the full 100%. I thought, oh, okay, this is actually just straight up wrong. That comes out and changes. So I've fixed it as best I can. It's a nice short, I think it's about 250 pages or so, and it's the kind of thing you can give to a friend who's curious at the beginning of the early stage of their journey. So it kind of covers lots of the classic arguments, the teleological, the kalam, the history of historicity of Jesus, and so on. Obviously, it's quite a short book, so there are other books that do each of these topics really deep, but this is one, a nice one for sort of dipping your toes in, at the with some depth. It's quite meaty, but I think as meaty as a beginner would like to get. I've also included lots of quotes from celebrities that are Christian, for a bit of flavour, and then there's also quotes from scientists and historians and stuff that actually kind of boost the arguments. So yeah, recently I updated that, so that's available. I'm quite proud of that. I'm very happy with it. Oh, no, I don't need that. This one, yeah. So that's available, and so I was happy to go over that because I do feel like it's very important to be engaging and studying and learning more about this kind of stuff. Even if I'm not making the videos and sharing them, I'd still like to be having some output, because my intention for this channel always was that this stuff needs to be known. People need to know this stuff. The general public just have so little biblical knowledge of, like, what, you know. It's all, people think they know what's in the Bible, and they'll tell you what they think's in there, and someone who's actually read it and studied it properly will say they don't say that anywhere in there. Things like hell being a pit of fire where demons poke you with pitchforks, and Satan sits there laughing. He's a red guy with furry feet and wings, and because all that comes from, like, either medieval paintings or Bugs Bunny cartoons. It's not actually in the Bible. A lot of that kind of thing. That's what the general public thinks Christianity is. The general public aren't actually aware that Jesus claims to be God a lot of the time. They're really surprised when you say, yeah, Jesus was God incarnate. That, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Where's that crazy idea come from? It's like it's in every page, you know. So the intention was to take things like how I got into this was like watching lots of William Lane Craig videos, and he uses all the big words and the big philosophical terms and language and ideas, and I'm just thinking, well, this is great for academia, but for your average layperson, it's it can go over your head, because I know it was going over my head at the beginning, and I had to keep looking up all these words he was saying to try and understand it. So for your average person on the street to get what he's talking about, it needed to be broken down into more simple language, and that was my goal, trying to make it these important ideas that most people have got wrong and make them accessible. Um, so I still feel like there is room for that. So cause I can watch Michael Jones and Mike Winger, and that they might still be using the big words and the terminology that you have to be in the in crowd to understand what they're talking about. Um, Whereas my intention is to dumb it down, not dumb it down as such, but make it more understandable for every person, because every person should be able to have this information. Especially, it's the idea of Christianity is that it's could be the most important thing in your life, so it shouldn't be kind of behind a wall of academia to be able to understand it and get in. It should be just there, like, and it's something I love about it is that it can be there for someone who doesn't need to think about it too much. Like, you can have enough on your personal experience, like, yeah, I felt it, I've had prayers answered, um, and that's enough. Or you could be a scholar who spends every day trying to work out what all the ancient idioms in the ancient Hebrew mean, and then get a more rich understanding of what it's talking about in there. And both ends of the scale are like very happy, and I like that it can be great for everyone. But I feel like at the moment, the balance is a little bit more towards academia, and this is where society could be losing a lot of converts, because people aren't that stupid. Like, once you get some, if you're kind of basing things on just pure blind faith and you're happy with that, and then one day you realize blind faith's not a good idea, then it's gone. You drop, and then it's like, okay, I haven't seen any evidence, so I'm going to drop it. And I think that happens to a lot of people. But then if you've got the evidence and it's there, and you've got your proper faith, not blind faith, that's a lot better. So I want to take the academic ideas and put them in the mainstream. Um, so there's that. But the other reason why I've kind of lost heart a little bit is seeing so many crazy ideas that are out there from all angles. So, like, for myself, I do think atheism is that there's no reason to be an atheist. I can get on board with non-theist, agnostic. Like, I haven't made my mind up yet. I haven't seen enough yet. But atheist, where you're like, I believe God does not exist. It's like, I don't know how you can justify that. So there's that. It's crazy stuff like flat Earth. There's certain ideas within Christianity, like how some people don't believe Jesus is God. I don't know how you miss that if you read the Bible, unless you're in some sort of group that cherry picks what they show you. And for example, the Jehovah's Witnesses, where they've retranslated the Bible to suit their particular theology, and they've taken out as many references to Jesus being God as they can. But they did miss a lot, because there's so many in there that you. Anyway, the things like that. This kind of people, the way people some think, it's like no matter what you give them, it's not going to get through. Because some other walls are up. It's not just about, here are the facts, here are the evidence, I'm going to change my mind. There are other barriers in place, and it does seem a lot of the time that certain ideologies are more of a barrier than the intellectual barrier. And my channel and a lot of our channels are just about the intellectual barriers, and it kind of gets frustrating when you like, here are all the facts, here are all the evidence. I don't know how you are finding a way to wiggle out of it and keep the ideas you've got. But whatever it is, I can't break through. I think there's some sort of there's something else going on that is probably a pastoral question. So that'll be someone else's thing to deal with. Some sort of, maybe they've had some sort of trauma, maybe they're trapped in something. Who knows what it is that's keeping them in these ideas. Like I think the theory with the flat Earth is that it's this idea of I belong to a community. I belong to this community who are like, we're really wise because we've cracked the secret. And if they go back to not believing in flat Earth, it's like, oh no, no, I'm one of the normal people again. Things like that. That was a very kind of basic way of putting it. There's more to it. It's not quite that simple, but yeah, but a sense of belonging can always be. So I was finding that frustration of talking to people, laying out the facts, and they're just kind of digging their heels in. It kind of, along with everything else, how time consuming it is to do it, all that sort of thing, it just got to a point like, you know what, I'm spending a lot of time on this, and it's not doing a lot of good for many people. So I've shared it with some people, and they've enjoyed it and loved it, and that's great, and I do appreciate that, and I like that, and there was some encouragement to keep going. But like I say, other people are doing it better, so instead of doing it myself, I'd point to some of the names I've said, and others, Mike Winger, Jim Wallace, Dr. Craig, obviously. It didn't seem, obviously I'm there, I can have a personal conversation with people, and that's always been fruitful. That's good. So yeah, that's why the huge gap. But it has always been in the back of my mind as well that I do want to come back to it if I can find a way of doing all these kind of ways of things that I like to do, making it accessible, making it understandable, making it entertaining, and also potentially making it easier on myself. So it's not quite as much, if I do it without all the graphics and so on, that will save a lot of time. Although I think I do still want to keep that, because this is one of the reasons why I'm making this video right now, is that those names I just listed, Mike Winger, Michael Jones, David Wood, even Dr. Craig, they're not making the kind of videos that I was finding. They are sometimes, but not as much. These kind of solid. Michael Jones' Inspiring Philosophy does still do quite a few of these, but they take a little while to come out. Of these well-researched, well-scripted, polished presentations. Here is the point I want to make. Here it is in a structured form that you can kind of follow and see my train of thought. I like those. But what they mostly seem to be doing now is doing the live streams. Like, they'll be doing 3-hour streams. They'll sit in front of the camera, either by themselves or with a friend, and chat about a topic. And those can be fruitful and useful, but a lot of the time it's a bit meandering. They might take half an hour to actually start talking about the topic. Then they'll stop every so often so they can respond to the super chats, which might go off topic again. It's like, I'm just here for the whatever's in your subtitle, your title of your video. You had a question there. I wanted you to talk about that. That's what I want to hear. And this is a 3-hour video, and maybe half of it you're talking about the topic. And sometimes I don't go into all that much depth on it. And I think a lot of that is to do with sort of YouTube algorithms and things. The YouTube prefers the longer videos now, and a live stream is really easy to do daily or weekly or regularly. So you get, like I say, you sit in front of a camera, turn it on, turn it off, done. There's not much editing. There's not much else to do with it. So they can kind of churn those out and keep the YouTube algorithm happy with the way it wants so many hours of upload, so many hours of view time per month, and so which the way I do things, the algorithm doesn't like me because short to the point videos uploaded maybe once every 6 months, it doesn't like that. But I've got this focus on, I want quality, I want real meat, I want something you can really take and maybe rewatch multiple times. I'll watch a live stream now and again, but I don't think I'm ever going to rewatch a live stream. They're just kind of very throwaway. Whereas I have a focus on making things very evergreen. I want it to be just as relevant today as it will be in 10 years, unless hopefully some of the arguments get through and atheists and whoever else stop using them, and because we've defeated it, but then it becomes a nice historical, like, okay, yeah, this is why the atheists don't use this argument anymore, because back then we'd dealt with it. But yeah, that's kind of my focus on things. Doesn't quite align with the way things work on YouTube, but maybe I'm going to try and figure out a way of doing this that's less time consuming and still completes the goals that I want from my content. So I would still very much welcome subscribers and likes on the videos. Like I said, I've got a bit of a back catalogue. If you haven't seen any of those, please check them out. Like I said, I had a couple of guests on. I had Mike Winger, John McRae from What Do You Meme. There's a couple of interviews I had. One of them had Tyler Vila talking about Calvinism, who recently deconverted, so maybe that's of interest. I did want to do some more. Maybe I'll get in touch with the people I was going to talk to about to get those going, because I think those type of conversations are very fruitful. I was going to do one a little bit different to the other ones, because like I said, my intention was to ask questions to someone I disagree with, but I had one that was about evolution, where I was going to be talking to someone who agreed with me but knew more about it than I do. So I might have been playing devil's advocate on that one. And then I was going to have one, I was talking to someone about where to find comedy in the Bible, and I was really looking forward to that one, but never got around to doing it. So that might be where I put my focus on, just talking to ones where I'm talking to people rather than putting out my own edited things. And then if I feel like there's fruit there, maybe I can go back to doing the sort of things that I feel are more my speed. But yeah, I'll see how it goes. I really would like to bring life to this channel and get back onto it, because it's more than a hobby. It's the faith. It's evangelizing. It's learning for myself as well as helping others understand things. So even if it's a topic that I don't myself understand, I can be talking to someone else who does. I can learn from them, and viewers can vicariously learn through me. And I think there's so much that can be done, and I'd really like to do it, and hopefully makes some money out of it as well, because that is the other side of things. Is the final one of like that this channel is not making any money, and I have to prioritize the my actual work so I can pay bills and things. So until I can sort of make some sort of transition, So yeah, the book there, that'd be great. Find it on Amazon. Um, and I don't know, maybe I'd set up a Patreon for this, or maybe I think I did actually, and I've just let that fester somewhere. Um, but anyway, hopefully this isn't the last video I'll make. Hopefully, and in the future, I'm looking forward to great things. So I'm Louis, and thank the Lord for everything we have done so far. Amen.